Make her pop. Make her pop! I want to see her pop! The young girl screeched, pounding her fist against the golden arms of her chair. She was hardly of marriageable age, but was rather wide for her years, filling up the adult-sized throne with her bulk. She was naturally pretty, with smooth skin and bright bluish-purple eyes, but all her girlish beauty was tainted at the moment by a look of furious, intent rage. Her eyes were redirected at another girl, not so much older than the richly dressed lordling, who stood in the center of the throne room. She had dark, black hair, long enough to reach her waist, which was usually worn in a bun by the way it curled and twisted. She looked terrified, and vanishingly small in her maid outfit that was a size or two, 3 large for her skinny frame. My lady, begging your pardon, please, I never meant to. Silence! The younger girl shrieked, her double chin wobbling. I'll see you burst for this insolence! How dare you spill my morning juice! An older woman at the girl's right side said in a weak voice, My lady, some mercy might be shown. There's a certain lack in the cellars of late, which might be remedied by her contributions where she should be stopped in an earlier stage. No! The lordling girl would have none of it. I'll have her explode, and then her juice can replace what the clumsy idiot wasted this morning! An old man was measuring out some sticky, dark blue fluid into a cup as she spoke. There were graduations along the side of the container, and he poured until the fluid reached the final, deep red mark, and then some. The cup was brought before the maid, who looked at it as the fangs of an approaching viper. No, please, I'll gladly fill the cellars, just not that much, she begged. I thought I told you to be quiet! You won't be half so mouthy once this is through, the vicious girl upon the throne said, a smile creeping over her smooth, pale cheeks. Then the cup was at the maid's lips, forced there by armed guards. Her eyes were wide with terror, and though she tried to keep the substance away from her, she was unable to resist. The whole room watched in frozen silence as she drank, one swallow after the other. Then the cup was empty, all the sticky substance in the maid's belly. The guards released their hold on her arms and legs, allowing her to once again stand freely. Yet she did not run, only saying, Oh, I feel funny. The fat little lordling clapped happily. Yes! She's going to explode! She cackled, rocking back and forth on her purple velvet cushion. The woman at her side was whispering quietly with a young man, the master of the cellars. He spoke to her in hushed tones, such that the excited little girl would not notice.
This is the second this week she's doomed, Ophelia. If the Lady Willa does not soon see to replenish her stocks, the people might not look so kindly on her little fits.
I am quite aware, Alfred, the old woman said with a heavy sigh. Hopefully, we can find some way to curb her excesses. Would that her mother was still around. Meanwhile, strange things were happening to the young maid. A vivid, glistening blue color had appeared on her face, spreading rapidly to cover her body. Her hair soaked up some of it at the roots, making the black turn an inky purple. Oh my, what a pretty shade of blue! I'm sure you'll make quite a lovely blueberry, Willa cooed, a broad grin on her chubby cheeks. She added in an icy tone, Shame that it won't last long.
Please, oh gods, I don't,
the maid mumbled, her hands clutching her belly. Her middle began to swell next, a wet gurgling noise accompanying her expansion. It went with frightening speed, her stomach drawing her undersized outfit taut around its sloshing roundness. Getting tight, she gasped, as her belly ballooned so large she could hardly reach her arms around it. Willa laid her hands on her belly as she laughed. Don't worry, you stupid girl. All the servants' clothes have plenty of give. You'll need it. Alfred whispered again.
Such a waste. Her mother made sure the cellars were always full of girls producing, and explosions were only an accident.
That was her mother. This is Willa, Ophelia answered, her lips tight and devoid of emotion. The maid girl had to stand wide to accommodate her growth, her thighs and arms beginning to get some of the sloshing juice. Big blue tears were in her eyes, as her skin stretched and creaked to contain the uncountable gallons of liquid that flowed inside her. Her belly was so large it hung down to her knees, fat and heavy with juice, though her rear end provided a good counterweight with its similar size. True to what her lord lady had said, the outfit stretched dutifully, yet it was hardly comfortable wrapped taut around her glistening blue flesh.
Bluer you get and bigger you grow. When you pop, nobody knows!
Willa giggled maniacally at her own joke, though few in the throne room joined in. Panic began to really set in for the maid as she felt her body changing shape. She was soon near spherical, her juicy, sloshing buttocks joined with her belly and merging with her torso, and she felt the impossible sensation of her crotch brushing the ground. I can't, she mumbled, her bright blue irises trembling with fear. She rocked her body from side to side, turning towards the exit. I need to be juiced! The Lady Willa leapt up from her seat, a gleeful look on her face.
Oh, I do so love it when the blueberries try to run before they pop!
She cried, and quickly tottered her flabby little body down to where the maid was awkwardly trying to waddle away.
Have to get juiced!
Loud sloshing could be heard from inside the maid, as her whole body rocked from side to side, like a jostled water balloon. Her skin was stretchy enough that the weight spread out around her legs, nearly hiding the half-useless limbs beneath shiny, exposed blue flesh. She hardly noticed Willa come up behind her, her tiny hands sinking into her bulging buttocks.
Oh, but with how big you've grown, won't you get there faster if you roll?
She said, giggling. Already off balance with the immense effort of waddling her enormous bulk, the lady's hands were too much.
No!
The maid cried, before feeling her feet leave the ground and sloshing forward onto her enormous belly. Willa shoved her hands deep into the blueberry stretchy skin, playing with her crotch area as her feet kicked and flapped.
Oh, but you still have so much to give! I'm sure you won't mind if we have a bit of fun with you!
Willa turned and shouted to a guard.
Catch!
With a rough shove, the maid went tumbling head over foot, her long black hair whipping about.
Help, please!
The maid cried as she saw the guard's face get closer and closer with every rotation of her swelling body. She had room for now, but she could feel her skin getting tighter and tighter. She remembered how quickly the last girl had gone. Though the guard stopped her, it was not the help she desired.
Well, roll my ball back to me, oaf!
Willa shouted to him, and without a word, he shoved her right back. Willa caught her with help from another guard. The child was far too small to stop such immense weight rolling around, and turned her so that she could see her face.
Oh, what a fun ball this is! A shame she's going to explode!
Willa said with a vicious laugh, pinching the maid's fat blue cheek. Her hands flapped and wiggled pathetically as they began to sink into little divots on her sides, her body outgrowing its own limbs. Even as she spun in a miserable haze of tightness and blueberry juice, she could tell she was growing bigger still, her skin tightening up and making contact with smaller area of ground. Her cheeks, fat and full with juice, moaned out a final plea.
Please.
Willa dug a finger into the maid's skin, finding it hardly sunken at all.
Oh my! Are you about to pop? Tell me, Blueberry!
She demanded. Huge blue tears poured down her cheeks as little red lines of stress streaked over her skin.
Gonna explode,
she said in a sobbing, desperate whine. In response, Willa threw her arms around what she could of the massively bloated juice ball and whispered,
Well, come on then. Maybe that will teach you to spill my juice.
The next moment, there was a low, wet boom. So loud, it shook the paintings on the walls. Thick, sticky goo flew everywhere, covering Willa and all the guards, and even reaching back towards Ophelia and Alfred. The maid was nowhere to be seen, nothing left of her but a mass of dark purple fluid. The lording was knocked back by the blast, but she hardly looked displeased.
Look, Ophelia! I I made her explode!
She cried proudly, her golden ringlets staying the same deep purple as her dress. Ophelia kept her expression calm.
Very good, my lady. Now let us get you cleaned up.
But Willa was holding a glob of the maid's mess, cupping it in both her hands.
This should make a lovely replacement for my breakfast juice.
The old man who had poured the potion from earlier began to speak up.
My lady, that's not yet,
he began to say, but Ophelia silenced him.
The lady will have her breakfast, sir,
she said, a queer sort of grin on her lips. Ever the spoiled child, Willa was already gulping it down.
Oh my, that's quite delicious, actually. I should be so lucky to have such an insolent fool spill my breakfast every morning,
she said, licking her fingers and fondling her full, fat belly with a sticky hand. On her face, the dark blue of the mess was joining another color, one a little brighter from her own skin. Not noticing it, she turned to waddle back towards her throne.
Alfred, see if you can't bring me one of those other girls from the cellar. Roll her up here. Maybe we can make them explode too. Oh, I
feel funny,
Alfred finished helpfully. Ophelia looked at the confused young lordling and said in a voice not without pity,
Don't worry. We'll at least make sure our lady does not explode.